Hello and welcome to my video review for Shadow of the Tomb Raider, a game I've been waiting for so long, and now it's finally here. It's even better than I ever could imagined. Oh my god, this game. There's a lot to talk about with this game, so I'm just going to jump into it and try not to fanboy for the next 20 minutes. Shadow of the Tomb Raider has got quite a lot on its plate because it's not only a self-contained Tomb Raider adventure, but it's also the final act in her three-part origin trilogy, and luckily it manages to succeed in both aspects incredibly well. I'm a huge Tomb Raider fan, so I love this game, warts and all, and it does have some warts that show through every now and again, but luckily they aren't too big or distracting. This is the closest we've ever seen this version of Lara come to the classic version of the character from way back in the day, and that's clear right from the start. She's seasoned at this by now, and so there's very little setup needed before you just jump straight into the action. This game has also probably got the highest stakes we've ever seen from this trilogy, and the most amount of time dedicated to Lara personally and her backstory, and for that it should be congratulated, because it made the overarching story feel both grounded and extravagant at the same time, in true Tomb Raider fashion. The ending of the game definitely left me wanting more, not in a is that it kind of way, but more in a okay, so where are we off to next sort of way. And I'm sure after a short break we'll definitely see Lara Croft make a return, whether it'll be this version of the character or more like what we used to from the old game. Overall, Shadow of the Tomb Raider's story was as enjoyable as the previous two games, and I can't really choose between them because I love them all just as much as each other, but it was certainly the darkest of the three, and I really loved taking a look at Lara's darker side in more detail. Like I previously mentioned, Lara Croft is the closest here to the original we've ever seen from this trilogy, and I think that's one of the strongest parts of the game. There's very little setup needed at the start and plenty of time to get stuck in. However, that being said, there is still boatloads of character development in this game for Lara, and Shadow of the Tomb Raider has some of the strongest moments emotionally for Lara from the entire series. Camilla Luddington knocks out of the park once again, and her excellent performance is a big part of why Croft feels so real and relatable. Despite her saying that this might be her last outing as the action heroine, I suspect we'll eventually get a new game in the future, and if we do, she'll be on the shortlist of voice actors to call up. I will say that while she does feel closer to the classic incarnation, I would have liked to see that pushed just a little bit more so it peeks through. 5 years later from the first game, and we still haven't seen her use those damn dual pistols in a meaningful way. I don't know, I just wanted to see a little bit more, but I doubt this is the end of Lara Croft's story, so die-hard classic fans are just going to have to wait a little bit longer. Whilst Camilla, and by extension Lara, are the clear stars, the supporting cast of characters does a phenomenal job here. Earl Balon does a great job as Jonah, a character I've really come to adore throughout these games. He really felt like the perfect chalk to Lara's cheese here. Carlos Leal is the main villain, Dr. Dominguez, and whilst considering the character is more complex than most villains in the series, he plays both sides of him really well. The modern military doctor of Trinity and the passionate saviour of Paititi. His performance was great and it elevated the character above that of someone like Rook, who, played by Carlo Mestroni, was enjoyable but felt more like the same old same old. So before I break the gameplay down, because there's a lot to talk about with Shadow of the Tomb Raider, I want to quickly just mention the unique difficulty setting that this game has. Rather than choosing easy, medium or hard, you can select which parts of the game you want to be harder out of combat, traversal and puzzles. This is great because if you don't want to slog through difficult combat encounters but you want to challenge yourself with puzzles, you can do just that. These changes are not only noticeable but on harder difficulties downright drastic, and they make playing the game on its hardest difficulty a real challenge and something that you should probably prep for before attempting. Traversal is just as fluid and fun as previous games and is actually utilised a little more in key story moments and puzzles, which I'll get onto later. New additions like wall running, rappelling and overhead climbing not only spice up some of the larger traversal sections of the game, but again, they give it that more classic Tomb Raider feel. I never had any problems with traversal whilst playing, and when bumping that difficulty up to hard and wiping that classic white paint away, it not only made some of the puzzles a little bit more challenging, but it made the whole experience that much more immersive. A big complaint of this series is the lack of in-depth and truly challenging puzzles. Well, in Shadow of the Tomb Raider, that's no longer an issue. The puzzles are easily the best out of the trilogy, both in the main story and the additional challenge tombs, and they are some of the biggest and most extravagant we've seen to date. They're also easily the hardest out of the 3 games. Now don't get me wrong, I was able to complete them and I'm an idiot, but I got stuck way more than previous games, but it never came off as frustrating, just more immersive and enticing. I want to talk about the stealth mechanics quite a bit here, so I'll quickly whiz over the actual gun-to-gun gameplay, which honestly feels more of the same from the previous games. That's not a bad thing, mind, because I've always loved the gameplay of Tomb Raider, and if you've played the previous games, you know what to expect here. Although I will say that the addition of more guns and more ways to unlock those guns, such as in hidden chests or side mission rewards, did make the whole system feel a bit more fleshed out. Now, stealth is fantastic in this game, and on the harder difficulties, it's absolutely necessary. New additions like hanging enemies from trees using rope arrows, or covering yourself in mud Predator style, and hiding in the jungle foliage made you feel more of a badass, and pulling off those huge stealth takedown combos feels way more satisfying this time around. Encounters with higher amounts of enemies now feel way more intense, and items like smoke bombs or distractions feel more essential here than in previous games. If you're one to take a stealthy approach, Shadow of the Tomb Raider has a lot to offer you, but if you're more of a runner and gunner, it's got more than enough to keep you covered as well. This game is absolutely gorgeous. The lighting is perfect and helps to set the atmosphere, whether you're in the undergrowth of the South American jungle, the bright and vibrant city of Paititi, or the literal pathway to the underworld, the game always looks fantastic. Plus, this game has some of the best facial animations I've ever seen, both in cutscenes and just in regular gameplay. The sound design in this game is fantastic too, and when you hear growls or screams echo through the caves, it sounds as if you're completely surrounded by enemies, and it ups the fear factor straight to an 11. Playing Shadow of the Tomb Raider with a decent pair of headphones is a must for a complete immersive experience, and I'm playing on a regular PS4, so I can only imagine how cool this thing would look on a PS4 Pro or a high-end PC. This game feels like the most fleshed out of the trilogy in terms of additional content. The classic letters, relics and challenges all make a return of course, but now we have more secret treasure to find, which actually requires some in-depth exploration of the world. Plus, we have multi-stage cinematic side missions which feel a cut above those in Rise of the Tomb Raider, and the rewards they give feel much more worthwhile. We now have more intricate crypts to explore as well as tombs, and the all-new outfit system where you can mix and match what Lara wears and craft new armor by hunting animals for pelt was seriously cool. These all have bonus effects which feel substantial, and was a nice extra layer of strategic gameplay added as you have more control over your ultimate playstyle. Plenty to keep you going in between finishing the main story and starting your new game plus. Surprisingly, Shadow of the Tomb Raider has more technical difficulties than I would have expected or liked. Some stealth finishes didn't work as intended, the occasional misjump cost me a restart here and there, and at one point I even fell through the world due to a small hole in a cave, and from what I've seen on YouTube, others are having similar issues. It was never enough to ruin my experience, but I expected a little better from the third installment in the series. Maybe I just got unlucky a couple of times, but a small patch to iron out these issues would be much appreciated. Shadow of the Tomb Raider is a phenomenal game. Story-wise, it's on par with the others, but gameplay-wise, the innovation taken here is extremely impressive. It plays amazing most of the time, looks and sounds amazing all of the time, and has an incredible emotional story which wraps up the trilogy nicely. More story-driven side missions and tombs are coming in the season pass, so we'll have to wait and see what story beats we get there, but for now, I'm happy to be replaying the whole experience again on New Game Plus. Guys, thank you so much for checking out my review of Shadow of the Tomb Raider. If you liked it, hit that like button, and if you like what I'm doing, maybe hit that subscribe button to stay up to date on what I do next, and I'll catch you on the next one.